Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Whatever I'm Obsessed with This Time podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is music production and specifically making an album. And I don't know about you. I don't know about other people, but I understand within this day and age now, a lot of people are just focused on making singles because not a lot of sometimes albums don't sell or whatever. But my favorite thing about making music is actually making an album. I started off releasing singles, but at the end of the day, like creating a cohesive compilation of music that kind of fit into each other is my favorite thing to do. I like to tell a story, tell a concept of everything, rather than just releasing the best tracks. And even when it comes to advertising, I'm not a huge fan of advertising, but if I'm going to advertise my music, I'm going to advertise all of my music. Well, not all of it. I'm not going to advertise the You're Not Going Fast Enough EP, because there's not a lot to advertise there. It's just metal. It's what I thought at the time, like what metal sounded like to me, putting stuff together. And yeah, so I'll talk about since it's going to be like primarily centered around my whole process and everything. I'm going to be talking about like the history of my music. So I started off with creating. I was tired of copyright claims, so I wanted to start making my own background music. And then the first background track that I did was something to do. It actually got me a copyright claim. Funny enough, and the whole of the video that I used it for was not a great video. I even made a video talking about it was a bad taste video. But then there was like the next video that I wanted to do. It was like a grand production that I'd never done before. So I wanted to make something that fit the atmosphere of the video. So I wanted to go like a more slow route. I made a track called Explosion in Los Angeles, and honestly, I'm pretty sure I just got the name from playing GTA. Just playing GTA, probably the director mode, not director, yeah, the director mode, and I came up with something to do with that. I don't really know, but yeah, that's how that started, and then I started continuing experimenting with other singles. And then I released the EP, and so my first EP, Not Going Fast Enough EP, was essentially a challenge that Finn McKenty said that you can't make an album centered around F1 racing. So I just kind of made like a instrumental based EP centered with a cover to do with, well, actually, I mean, yeah, no, even the titles and everything has to do with F1 racing or racing in general. Yeah, training, preparing, and a lot of that was actually inspired by the movie Ford versus Ferrari, which is a fantastic movie. And that's how that started off. And then as my mental health got worse and I felt like I was going into another depression again, that's when I started putting things together to make an album. And at the time, I wanted to make an album kind of to, like, as I guess, a coping mechanism by rehashing the past, specifically going through my life in chronological order from my dad's accident to the point that I got a $3,000 bursary to put me through college. All that told in through different genres of music that I felt best suited, the overall theme. And that's when my inspiration for creating an album, or comes from Nine Inch Nails' The Downward Spiral, from how Trent Reznor went to what do you call it? It was like it was like a mansion of, and again, don't quote me, but it had something to do with the was it the murders of like with the Manson family? I'm pretty something to do with that. And for me, the best place to make music is my dad's place because ever like just returning back to high school, when I was going through a rough time, often like he would have me watch his house, and I would just be alone with my thoughts there, and it's a place that is filled with it's filled with it's filled with a lot of regret. It's filled with, I guess, the overall feeling of like wanting to be a different person. I don't know like how that translates, but a lot of that, there's a lot of regret that comes from just being at his place. So I started putting together this album, and as far as I know, had a couple days to work on it there, but I'm pretty sure I got done in 3 days. Um, how Since it's in chronological order, um, everything represents a theme, and the first one is the two part um, on YouTube. It wasn't a two part on SoundCloud, which is the accident and the afterlife experience. Which, because like the whole thing with my dad is that when he got into his car accident, he died for a short period of time, and then he came back to life. So I wanted to do the whole crash since it was 2003. I wanted to like do something like rock, new metalish as the thing, and then whenever the crash happens, then kind of go into a more like uh, theatrical music that would play like over a car crash scene. And then for the near death experience, I wanted to do like a more dreamy atmosphere, very ambient, uh, like watery guitars and stuff like that. And then the track after, which is Leave Your Wife and Children, which is just highly inspired by a lot of like the music that my dad liked, um, like uh, like rock, The Killers, or yeah, like dad rock, The Killers, and the orchestral stuff that he likes from movie scores. Then after that is Hanging Out with the Boys that left after 2010, which is my attempt to making a pop punk song track. Just sounds kind of like really bad MySpace indie rock, and then kind of I tried to do a dance punk thing, and then that shifted into like a Linkin Park vibe, specifically like the New Divide song. Like I think this was before I really like dove into Linkin Park, so I just like thought, okay, the New Divide. I'm gonna try to recreate that. I think it sounds pretty interesting. It's not the best thing I've ever made, not the worst. I might get my timelines mixed up, but from there, then there's oh yeah, then there's is it True Love Does Exist? I think it's called True Love Does Exist, which was about a time where I met a person for like 2 days, um, shared my first kiss with them, and then they just, I guess, moved away or something like that. It's a very odd story. Um, but the whole thing about that was like, it was kind of like an ironic sense. I wanted the title to represent it in like an ironic sense, uh, which I find it interesting because I think a lot of people that gravitate it towards are like people that like your indie rock, your Mumford and Sons, your Lumineers songs about being happy and falling in love, and that's I just it was like an ironic take, but there's nothing really ironic about it. Like the title's ironic, but the music and all that doesn't really convey the fact that it's supposed to be ironic. It's also highly like inspired by like indie films like Paper Towns, which is one of my favorite movies. Perks of Being a Wallflower, Words on Bathroom Walls, all those kind of just wrapped up into that. From then on, I believe it was Bullied Through Elementary School, which is still one of my favorite tracks. It's a so bad it's good track, but even then, maybe some people just enjoy it unironically. Just conveying the fact that I went through hell through elementary school by combining genres that I asked some friends and family that like what they don't like. They don't like the if I remember correctly, they didn't like metal, pop rock, samba or ramba, one of the two, and dubstep all together to create something so great. And then after that, I believe it was. I always get it confused. I think it was Stacy is my favorite Daria character, um, which was kind of like it was like I've explained this before. It was a love track dedicated to someone um, that kind of just highlights like what this person like what how I view this person like the music if like to come up with a track that describes this person through music, which is like jazz, indie, easy listening stuff. Like just like life is strange, and jazz best describes that person. From then on, then there's I believe ninth grade was forgettable, which is an interlude of like a MySpace pop rock meets like 93 Feet of Smoke with like a trap beat. I was highly influenced by 93 Feet of Smoke for that. And then I believe it was Depression. No, it was stealing a newspaper from an overrated cafe, which is almost like a long interlude, kind of just describing my like want to or my need not my need my want to like disappear from being in grade 10, just wanting to just disappear, and how I didn't feel like myself hanging out with friends. And that title is true. Someone did steal a newspaper stand from a Tim Hortons. Uh, and that was just like, and I just remember just being in that moment and just thinking about like, you know, I didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like I wanted to be there. It was just all mental health stuff. Then after that, it's depression, ironically enough, which is just an ambient, very somber ambient way of conveying that I was depressed. And then after that was it Finding Hope? I think it was Finding Hope, which is when I met my best friend. Um, just how everything changed after that. After that tragic event that I went through, finding someone and being able to, and just like connecting with them, and uh, they really just they changed my life around, but they weren't the reason why I changed. That's basically it. That track was highly influenced by. It was almost kind of like a part two of Stacy's my favorite Daria character, which is like there's a dreamy atmosphere, but there's also like a hopefulness. Like I wanted to think of like heaven. What does heaven sound like? Um, Guardian angels and like just the whole like premise of It's a Wonderful Life. I just wanted to like use all of that into and put it into a track. After that, there's what is it? Shoot, I believe it's writing is art or whatever she said, which is a track that I really just don't like talking about. I don't want to talk about it. It's not good by any means. It was supposed to be a remix. It was influenced. It was like, so the thing was, yeah. It I don't. There's no point in talking about it. After that, then there's the I think the happiest moment in my life, which was graduating high school. Um, I went from like a Donkey Kong country, like weird vibe with that. And then the final closing track, which is the lottery moment, which I wanted to like if it was it was a cloudy day, I just wanted to add some distortion because despite me being accepted into college and getting that bursary, I like it just it felt there was so much other stuff missing. But at the end of the day, I ended up kind of just accepting it that like this is going to be my new future. This is going to be my new life. Um, I'm in charge of it now. I can control. I get to do whatever I feel like is the best options, and that's kind of it's a very distorted track. I had like a Hollywood score orchestral thing to kind of highlight the fact about that I'm like getting out of that confusion state and I'm getting out of the like who am I as a person still, and I'm kind of like rolling into the acceptance stage. Now after that, then there was my second music project, which was originally planned to have a double album. And since I couldn't really put together what a whole album would be like, I ended up just cutting it in half and releasing two albums. Um, and when I was making this album, keep in mind, so I was depressed when I made the first album, that there's almost like literally no sign of depression except the actual track called Depression. Then I made a depressing music project when I wasn't even depressed. Like I was in the best moment of my life, pretty much. So taking a more ambient route, the only story that I really want to talk about is, I guess, the changes of the first album, which was I had no idea what I wanted the ending to be. So I heard this one track, which was originally called Forgot That I Even Knew You, which later then became If You Were Here Right Now, I'd Give You a Great Big Hug. And the more I don't know why, I guess the first couple listens, I just didn't really think of it. And then I kept listening to it more and more, and I kept getting more invested with that one like switch up where it's like there's the accordion section, and then there's like a weird guitar moment, and then it kind of just goes into an orchestral section where it goes high and then it goes low and then it just fades out. Like, yeah, that was perfect for an ending, and I didn't even like plan that. My favorite thing about making an album is that a lot of my decisions are, well, actually, I think everybody might have this, but I'm not a very particular individual that focuses on everything has to be perfect. I make a lot of stuff and then decide afterwards what fits and where. That's kind of how I feel. And when it came to making that album, despite that being like the perfect closing track, it never came to mind until I kept listening to it and listening to it. Now, the second album has an even crazier story about the final track off of it, which is I Wish I Could Escape from This Place. Now, I originally had plans, obviously, you could probably tell, that it was supposed to be a two-parter ending. Um, if you have a favorite massacre, you gotta have a favorite genocide. Those two correlate and kind of just signify the fact that I'm accepting um, that, the past is behind me and I'm moving on. Now, what ended up happening was, despite that almost seemed like a great idea on paper, I felt like it still didn't convey the fact that, I've kind of accepted myself of who I am as a person. Because that whole album, Frozen in My Self Consciousness, was just figuring out who I am, and I needed more of a push to convey that I finally accepted who I am, which was at the same time I made a compilation album, which would then later become the BOSF Presents Tracks You Haven't Heard Yet compilation. And originally on that compilation was track number 15, which would later become I Wish That I Could Escape From This Place. Every time I would listen to that song after the two-parter, I just kept feeling like more and more that I need to put it on the album. And it was a bold move at the end of the day because it was mostly a lo-fi project to come out with this hard-hitting like ending. It was great. I was highly inspired by Max Payne to make that track. Specifically 3, but 2's theme also kind of inspired it as well. And it really, and if you know the whole story with Max Payne, you know that the second game, he's trying to get over the death of his family, and then he gets over the loss of the death of his family because he finds Mona. Spoiler alert: Mona gets killed, and then in the third game, he finally has, or he's not only did he lose those people, but he also lost the family that he was a security guard for, and there's the final track that plays at the end of the game, which is it's iconic. It's by Health, called Tears, and that whole song represents the acceptance that he's moving on from those deaths. And I kind of wanted to just do the same, putting the past behind me and accepting who I am as a person. So I came up with that track, or I didn't come up with that track. I put that track on the album. Okay, now we get to the third music project, which was What Was Once Great, the album Whether You're Here or In My Heart. Originally, I don't even know what the ending was gonna. I can't remember what the ending was originally gonna be for that. But when I listened to, oh yeah, no, the original ending was actually going to be the track. Shoot, I already forgot the name, but it's the one by. It was the one off of my next music project, which is "Her Smile Saved Me." Um, the one to do with, or the one with the crow quote. I already forgot the name of it, but yeah. So that was going to be the ending, and then I heard what now is "I'm Fine, Lil," which was interesting. Reggae with metal. But at the end of the day, like what this album represents, my grandfather's life, going through the years, continuing the legacy with the kids, to have a track that really represents everybody else's, like the whole album is centered around his life. So to have a final track to represent our feelings towards, the fact that he at the time he didn't accept the fact that he was going to die. I felt like it really turned things around and made it the full experience that I wanted it to. Because you can't I didn't want to just end off an album like, oh yeah, we're celebrating my grandfather's life. No, because I was still struggling with the fact to accept the fact that he has leukemia and that he's going to pass away soon. So I just felt like putting all those emotions into one track to signify that despite he was in denial at the time, we were grieving. And I wanted to have that denial stage and the metal stage, or the denial would be the reggae, because I normally associate reggae with happy music. And then the metal stage would be our grief and our sadness about the fact. So now I'm going to tease about the newest project, which I'm not going to say the name of. I'm not going to say the name of the album, but this is by far my. Oh, actually, no, sorry. Torn Postcards. Let's go to Torn Postcards. Torn Postcards was, just it's experimental. It was experimental music. I didn't really have plans for specifically an ending, but considering that. I'm highly influenced by sad music. To have a closer, talking about kind of just um, suffering, living on. It's kind of like a cliche thing, and you could tell like by the sound of my voice. I did not know like I was gonna sound like Johnny Cash when I made it. I just felt like it's a perfect ending. There wasn't a whole lot of thinking there. It's just like, yeah, the song sounds like an ending. Let's use it as an ending. But yeah, let's fourth music project. So with this music project, pretty much the same as a lot of the rest. I recorded most of it at my dad's house, and then I actually recorded some other stuff here, where I'm sitting right here. For uh, so for this specifically, I can't exactly tell you like orders of how I'm making this album, because a lot of the time my decisions change at the very end. So where I'm leaning on is that my closing track is going to mention the title of the album, and the first is was but most of the rest of the music, that the order that it was recorded in is probably going to be changed. However, definitely the first maybe 5 songs, I would say, if not maybe four, are going to be in the same order. Now, the reason why I uh, do this is because often or not, when I'm writing about a topic, I just normally keep it in chronological order, and except for Lucas from Afar, because with Lucas from Afar, I was talking, or well, you know, it was because I was saving Lucas from Afar was about the specific moment in high school that depression happened, while Gift of Time's Arrow was talking about it was covering everything before that. Yes, depression represents the depression stage, but I feel like Lucas from Afar delivers everything that I wanted it to convey, from you know um, feeling betrayed, as well as like losing people that you were close to, and then with the second one, kind of just getting over that and focusing on the future and accepting who I am as a person. um, but yeah, I feel like that covers everything that I wanted to cover in this episode. I was gonna post this on my community post, but like, I just to show you how much effort was put into this next project. Yeah. Um, Ironically enough, the worst burn was actually caused by a track that's probably gonna be re-recorded. So yeah, but aside from that, the next episode is probably going to be. It might be about Max Payne 3, and my love for that game and my love for the soundtrack and everything, basically covering Max Payne 3. It might be about that, or it might be sad songs. It all depends on whatever topic I'm feeling. It could be Max Payne, could be sad songs that hit you at the right moment. We'll have to go from there. But yeah, that's it. Peace.